Hello, I'm Max. I'm demoing my Global Game Jam 2025 game, Pop Echoes of the Damned. It's a joke title. Gonna demo it real quick and have a little technical discussion about it. Gonna hit start. It's a tactics game, turn-based, two teams. You can select different guys on your team. Each one has a certain number of moves and a special action they can do. So this guy can blow bubbles. The theme of the jam was bubbles. Then the popper can pop bubbles. Well, I can't get him near a bubble right now. Here, I'll make a bubble. And select the popper, and then he can pop the bubble. And then lastly, the pusher can push people, or bubbles. He can push people into bubbles, you can push bubbles into people. The whole thing is about trying to not get trapped in bubbles. Once you're in a bubble, you're kind of in timeout for 3 turns. You can also fall off the map. So here, let's have this pusher walk off the map. So that also puts you timeout for 3 turns. So it's a tactics game all around. You can kind of build like walls out of bubbles and trap people in, and you're generally trying to like deny people the ability to move and stop people from capturing you and capture them. Surprisingly tactical. I had some people play test it, and that's the game. We've got these 3D models in here. It's isometric 3D. And there's no game loop, unfortunately. We didn't get time to put in like a scoring system or a game over system if like all of your guys are trapped or something. But I think we could have easily done that. We just ran out of time. And yeah, pretty good. Sorry about the frame rate being bad. Possibly my computer's very wimpy, but that's the game. Let's talk about some of the technical aspects. So we used Godot. I really like Godot as an engine. It was great. No major problems with it. What were some cool things? So if I go to the game, this is our main game scene. You can see the map here. And this is using Godot's 3D grid map, which lets you build these kind of tile-based maps. Map. So yeah, you can see here, I can like very quickly just build out a map out of these pieces. Here, I can turn that into a slope instead. And yeah, I just made like a weird overhang. But yeah, kind of a cool thing. I was thinking this would be super useful for like prototyping maps and stuff, but I basically built this one map and then that was the one we used for the entire game jam. We just didn't have time to actually like prototype anything. It was a relatively inexperienced team and hit some technical hurdles, so we didn't get as much done as I was hoping. So that's kind of why we didn't build the game loop, because pretty much once we got the game together where it was actually playable, the jam was over, so we didn't get time to like iterate on it. But that's fine. I'm still pretty satisfied with what we got done. And some other interesting decisions here. You can see these guys don't look like any of the ones in the game. These are all just placeholders because we decided to design it as just like there's just one character. Actually, I can show you in 3D here. So it's just all the models are on the same character. All the models have the same animations hooked up to them. So at runtime, we just have like a Boolean that we say like, okay, this guy's a popper. And then we turn on the popper model, and then all the animations hook into that. So you can see here when like we want to select a character, we can just say play the walk animation, and all the models work the same way. So this was actually pretty nice. I kind of recommend this if you're going to do an RPG or something like that. Just like design one character class that just has access to every single ability, and then just like kind of switch things on and off with toggles. Honestly, it was very manageable and made things a lot simpler. I think the main hurdle was actually the grid. I thought making a grid-based game might be simpler in some way because the math would be easier. It's more discrete rather than continuous in how all the math works, less fiddly with like the way physics simulations usually work. But it actually ended up being a ton of work because if you're on a grid and you're doing a fully grid-based game, you want to do like grid-based physics where it's like if you walk off one of these ledges on a grid, you want to like fall down by grid spaces. You need to check if something's below you or if you're going to kind of like collide with something on the grid. And what if I push something on the grid? Is there something in my way? And coding how these ramps work on the grid. Like all of that was custom logic. Godot doesn't have any of that built in, which is not that surprising in retrospect. So just be aware of that, that if you want to do a grid-based game, I think it can be simpler maybe in the long run, but you're going to have to do a lot more upfront work in terms of just like building out those basic pieces. For example, just making it so you can pick a spot on the grid with a mouse. That was all custom as well, because that conversion between like the kind of global floating point space of the game and the integer-based space of the grid, there's very limited tools available for that in Godot. So I think some of that maybe could be built out in the engine. I was really surprised that like the picking part wasn't built in, but then it ended up being the case that it was kind of good that it was custom, because like we realized there were certain situations where like when you're clicking on the grid, it's like, well, are you trying to click on the grid, or are you trying to click on a character, or are you trying to click on a bubble? And checking for all those different things ended up needing custom logic anyway. So that was, I think, the main mistake we made, where like if I had known that ahead of time, I probably would have tried to build like a very basic bare bones turn-based game template, or at least grid-based game template, so that we could have something to start on, and then we could spend more time actually like designing the game and iterating on the game rather than like building out the fundamental tool set. So something to be wary of if you're going for a grid-based game. I expect it's not even Godot specific. I think you'd have the exact same problem in like Unity or Unreal. Just needing to make those fundamental grid-based mechanics yourself. So yeah, that's basically the game, and it was a pretty good year. I think we basically finished a game, so that's definitely a success in my mind. And yeah, that's it.